Novak Djokovic left an immigration hotel in Melbourne on Monday to the relief of his father.
In the end, he won. Justice has won, and the rule of law has won.
Djokovic's brother, though, was less enthusiastic when asked what happened when Djokovic got COVID last year.
Was he at an event on the 17th of December?
Okay, so this press conference is adjourned at the moment.
Meanwhile, the pepper spray has come out in Melbourne as police clash with Djokovic fans, and the whole saga has led some to draw this conclusion.
It appears to me to be a complete embarrassment for the Australian government.
Or Australia's highest-selling newspaper, the Herald Sun, describes a total balls up. The man himself has tweeted this picture from the Rod Laver Arena, telling us, despite all that's happened, I want to stay and try to compete at the Australian Open. I remain focused on that. And Novak Djokovic is right. A lot has happened. Remember, he arrived in Australia last Wednesday night. He had his visa revoked and was moved to an immigration hotel. Then on Monday, Djokovic had an appeal upheld. The government admitted he hadn't been given enough time to respond to that visa decision. The judge concluded, we all play by the same rules. Those rules were not observed. But what were the rules? It's far from straightforward.
Effectively, the policy changed whilst Mr. Djokovic was in the air.
This is backed up by Paul Sackle of the newspaper The Age.
Literally just hours before he arrived, the federal government seemed to change its view and said it would apply its own stricter policies at the border.
Paul Sackle then highlights a crucial point, the policy on whether a recent COVID infection matters.
And they made a different judgment on his medical exemption, the prior infection exemption.
The prior infection exemption. Certainly by the time Djokovic landed, the government was saying this didn't apply. But Tennis Australia had been saying something different. In a letter on December the 7th, it told players, you may enter Australia with an overseas medical exemption certificate. One category for an exemption was a recent PCR-confirmed COVID infection after the end of July. But then listen to this from the CEO of Tennis Australia on Sunday.
There was plenty of contradictory information, plenty of conflicting information, and we constantly were seeking clarity from day one.
Seeking clarity and finding it are, of course, two different things, and Prime Minister Scott Morrison argues the information was there.
In relation to the government, our government, the federal government's advice to Tennis Australia, that was set out very clearly in November.
And in November, the Australian Health Minister wrote to Tennis Australia saying people who do not meet the definition of fully vaccinated will not be approved for quarantine-free entry. He went on, people who have contracted COVID in the past 6 months and haven't received 2 doses of a vaccine are not considered fully vaccinated. Also, bear this in mind.
A medical exemption for a prior infection has never been a reason to enter Australia as an unvaccinated person.
Evidently, Tennis Australia thought that it could happen in this case, which means Djokovic may have been following the rules, but may have been given the wrong rules to follow. And while we try to decipher what's happened here, we did clear up one thing. The transcript of Djokovic's conversation at the airport has been released. Asked, are you vaccinated? Djokovic replied, I am not. That, though, is not the only question for him, because Djokovic may have broken self-isolation rules in December, because these documents, released by Djokovic's legal team, show he tested positive for COVID on the 16th of December. The test and the result were on the same day. We don't know when he was told. Also on the 16th of December, Djokovic attended a ceremony for a new stamp in his honour and shared this picture. The next day, he was at a tennis centre in Belgrade, where trophies were handed over to the young talent by the favourite tennis player of this region. On the 18th, the French newspaper L'Equipe did a photo shoot with Djokovic in Belgrade. And as BBC Reality Check reports, Djokovic was tested in Serbia, where you are required to isolate for 14 days following a positive test. That doesn't appear to have happened in those 2 days, and Djokovic has not addressed why. Also, you'll remember when his family were asked.
Okay, so this press conference is adjourned at the moment.
In the middle of all of this, we also don't know if Djokovic was planning to miss the Australian Open unless he happened to get COVID. And while we're poring over these unknowns, the judge's ruling on Monday left the Australian government with a choice. Let Novak Djokovic stay, despite him not appearing to meet rules that all Australians have to follow, or deport the men's tennis world #1, which would mean barring him from the country for 3 years, after he appears to have done what was asked of him.